Have you ever felt buried under a mountain of tasks and not sure what to do about it? Don't worry, we have all been there. Now, you might have heard of Notion and you might have even used it to create documents and keep a track of various personal items. But did you know that there is a powerful feature within Notion that you can use to build your own tools? That's right. This feature is known as databases, and we are going to leverage it today to build our own personalized task manager. So if you're ready to get started, let's get into it. All right, so here I am in my personal Notion space. And of course, you can do this on the Notion app or within the browser, which I'm going to be doing today. And once you're here, essentially, there's a couple of ways to approach how to build a task manager. Now, the first way and the simple way is by using something known as the to-do list block. So the way you do that is by just hitting the / key on your keyboard, and you're going to see all these different blocks that Notion has to offer. And one of these blocks is called the to-do list block. So if you click on that, it is going to add a checkbox on the Notion page, and right next to it is a prompt to enter whatever text you want to enter. And in this case, it is going to be a to-do item. So here I'm going to type, this is a test to-do item. And then if you hit enter, it is going to create a new task for you or a new to-do item for you. And just like the last one, you can again type the name of the task or the description of the task. So here I'm going to type, this is another to-do item. Now you can follow this approach, and you can even group your task into pending versus done. And we can do that by adding a couple of headings here. So I'm going to add pending tasks, and then I'm going to add another one for done tasks. What you'll have to do in this scenario is that anytime you hit a task or you can complete a task, you'll have to manually move it into the done tasks column or done tasks area on the Notion page. And of course, it's a pretty tedious process because every time you check off a task, you have to go and manually add it. And there's no easy way to search and filter these tasks either. Although you can follow this approach for simple checklist items within a particular page or a particular project represented by a page. But if you want to build your own personalized task manager, something like a Todoist or a ClickUp or different kind of task manager tools that you might have used, we'll have to go a step further and use a different block called the database block. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, before we can start building, let's walk through all the requirements of this task manager and then our game plan. So let's walk through the requirements one at a time. Because it is a task manager, we should be able to add new tasks. We should be able to mark the tasks as done when they are done. And then we should be able to view the tasks separated by done and pending, just like I showed you in the example earlier. And then finally, we should also be able to sort the tasks by due date so that you can focus on the tasks that are due soon. Okay, so those are the requirements at a high level. And in order to make this happen, we need to track various kinds of data in this database. So the 4 things that we need to track are listed under this information header. So the first thing we need is the task description. So this is the task itself. Then of course we need the status. We should be able to mark the task as done or pending. We also need to be able to track the priority of the task. For example, high priority, low, or medium. And then finally, we need the due date of the task so that we can sort our task by the date. So that's the 4 pieces of information that we need. And then finally, here is our game plan. So first thing we need is to be able to build a database, right? So we will use the Notion block called database, which is going to come with some default fields, but then we are going to modify it to support our requirements listed above. And then we are going to add all the appropriate fields, essentially to track all 4 pieces of information that we talked about earlier. And then finally, we are going to create the views that we need to track the done task versus the pending task. And last but not the least, just to clean things up, it is always a good practice to move these tools to their own dedicated page. So we are going to do exactly that. We are going to move the task manager database to its own page so that it is nice and clean in our Notion space. All right, so that's all the information that we need to get started. And all that's left to do now is to start adding the database block and add all the appropriate fields to it. So to do that, I'm just going to create some space here and scroll up a little bit. And then as always, you can click anywhere. Wherever you see these 6 dots, you can type the / command and it shows you all the blocks that are available to you. So of course, the block that we need is the database block. So I'm going to start typing database. And then there are a couple of options that we can pick from. There's an inline option and there's a full page option. If I use the full page option, it is going to take me to a new page, but I would like to keep things within this page for now. So I'm going to use the inline option. Okay, so let's click on that and notice what happens. We get this database, which is pretty much a spreadsheet with some advanced features added to our same page where we have been working so far on the homepage. Okay. And of course, there's an option to name this database. And since we are going to be tracking our tasks in this database, I'm going to call this a tasks database, or tasks DB for short. Okay, so the database is there, but notice it only has two fields so far. First one is called name and second one is called tags. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this field. And then for the name field, this one you actually cannot delete. So we are just going to repurpose it to track the tasks. So if you click on the name of this field, you have the option to edit the name. And I'm going to change it to description, just so it is pretty clear that we are going to be tracking the task description in this particular field. Okay, so we have our database, we have our field to be able to type our tasks, but then now we need the three other pieces of information in this database. So the first one is called status. So let's start by that. And the way you add a new field to this database is by clicking on this plus icon. So it's pretty self-explanatory. You click on the plus icon and then a list shows up. Now you might be wondering, what is this list about? All you want to do is add a new field. Now this is where the spreadsheets are different from a database. In a spreadsheet, you just create a new field and start adding whatever data you want to add to it. But in a database, you have to select the type of data that you will be tracking in that particular field. So for example, since we are going to be tracking our status of the task in this field, we are going to look for the status field, or you can also look for a field known as the checkbox field. Either of those are fine. So let's go ahead and start typing. And as you can see, Notion supports the status field by default. And the other one that I mentioned is the checkbox field, which is also a pretty good option for a simple task manager. You can go either way. I'm going to go with status. And once you click on that, it is going to add a new field to the database. And as you can see, the status field by default supports three options. So your task could be not started, it could be in progress, or it could be done. But what you can also do is you can change the view of this field and change it to act like a checkbox. So I'm going to change it to a checkbox because we are building a simple task manager and we only need to be able to mark them as done or not done. So once you click on checkbox, the status field changes to show you the checkbox indicating whether a task is done or not. Okay, so that's our second field, which takes care of this particular one. And then we need a priority field. So for the priority field, again, we are going to click on the plus button and then type priority, but there is no such field to track priority in a Notion database. So we have to create our own. And the way you do that is by using something called the select field, which is pretty similar to a dropdown in any particular website. So we're going to look for the select field, and it's the first option here. And once you select that, you can name the field, and we are going to name it priority and going to click away to see if the field is added correctly or not. Now, when you click on the priority field, it starts off as empty, suggesting that there are no options in this dropdown to begin with. But we can go ahead and add some options. And to do that, you can again click on the name of the field, click on the edit property button, and then in here you will see an option called add an option. So here, what you're doing is essentially adding the options to your dropdown, just like you see on any website. So you click on add option, and I'm going to add two or three options rather. So I'll say high, one more medium, and then I'm going to add a low. Now it gives them some default colors, but you can feel free to change these colors according to your requirements. For example, in this case, I'm going to change high to a red, medium to a yellow, and then I'm going to change low to a green. Okay, so that takes care of our priority field. And just like last time, you click away and that menu goes away. And the last one we need is the due date field. So as the name suggests, it is going to be a date field. So you click on the plus button and then search for date. And the first thing that comes up is the date field. So the name suggests that in this field, you're going to be tracking some kind of a date. So here, all you're doing is selecting the type of information that's being tracked. And once you click on that, then you name the field. So this could be any date, right? This could be the start date, the end date, but in our case, it is the due date. So we are going to name it due date. And then Once we have done that, all 4 fields are added to our database, and we are ready to start adding some data. But before we do that, we are going to clean things up a little bit. And the first thing I like to do when I build a task manager is I like to move the status field all the way to the left, because in a typical task manager, the checkbox is on the left. And so I like to recreate that look and feel in Notion as well. So I'm going to move it onto the left, and then I'm also going to resize it so that all I need is the checkbox and nothing else in that space, so we can utilize the space here more appropriately. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to hide the name of the database, because I know already that this is my task manager. So I'm going to just hide the title by clicking on these 3 dots here and click on hide database title. And then finally, I'm going to move things around a little bit. I'm just going to reduce the size of the priority field and also the size of the due date field a little bit. There we go. And increase the size of the description field, because to be honest, in a task manager, the description field is what is going to take the most amount of space. All right, very good. All that's left to do now is to add some test data to our task manager. So I'm going to add, just like last time, a few tasks here. So I'll say this is a test task. And then I'm going to give it a priority. I'll say this is a medium priority, and this is due on Monday. Then I'm going to add another task, and I'll say this is another test task, and give it a priority low and due end of next week. And then finally, I'm going to create one more task. I'll say this is a done task. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give it a high priority. I'm going to give it today's due date, and I'm going to mark it as done. And notice how easy it is to mark it as done, because we are using the checkbox option in the status field. So just like a task manager, you come here and you tick this off, and that's it. So this takes care of our basic requirement, which is we can now add the tasks, we can mark them as done, but we still have 2 more things to worry about, which is the separate list for the pending and done tasks. So how do we do that? So in order to do that, what you need to do is you need to come here and click on this plus button. So what that allows you to do is allows you to create a new view from this existing database. And it'll make sense in a second when we do that. So we are going to create 2 new views, one for the done task and one for the pending tasks. So once you click on plus, it is going to ask you, what do you want to name this view? So I'll say I will name this done tasks. And it's going to ask me about some options. Do you want to show the database title? I always turn this off. Do you want to show the vertical lines? I'll keep that on. And it will also ask me whether it's a table or a different kind of a database. But for now, we're just going to keep it as a table. So click on done. And once you click on done, you get another menu with a bunch of other settings. And the setting that we are going to use here is called a filter. Because remember, this view is to only see the tasks that are already completed. So all we need to do is click on the filter and filter our task by the status field. So you click on the status field and say, only show me tasks that are complete. So once I click on that and hit away, now you can see the 2 other tasks that we had in our database disappeared, and we only see the done task. And I'm going to come here and save this view for everyone who has access to this page. Very good. So that's the done task. We need one more view, and that is for the pending task, and obviously the most important one. So I'm going to click here, and I'm actually just going to duplicate this view and click on that. And this will bring me back to the same menu here. And this time I'm going to call it the pending tasks. And notice this is already pre-filtered by the done task. So we will have to modify that to make sure that we are able to see our pending tasks. So click on filter. And this time we will say, show us everything that is either to do or in progress. So click away. And notice that now we only see the 2 tasks that are not done. So again, just like last time, hit save for everyone. And at this point, we are good to go. So usually what I do is rename this to something like all tasks, just so it's easy to understand what are these different views all about. So now we have the all tasks, done tasks, and the pending tasks. And you can move these things around as you wish. So maybe we can move the pending tasks to all the way to the top, and then all in the middle, and then done towards the end. And this is, of course, a personal preference. But at this point, we have everything that we need. And the only thing that's left is to be able to sort the task by due date. And if you have not already guessed, it is a feature supported by the database, just like the filter. So if you if you want to sort your task by due date, you are going to come here, click on sort, and then select the due date property. And now you can either select them by ascending or descending. So if I select descending, I see the October 27 task on the top. Or if I select ascending, I will see the one that is due before. That's how you sort the tasks. You can either keep the sort or remove the sort. It's totally your choice, and you can sort them as you need it. That's pretty much it for the setup. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of all these things because we have completed all the items on this list. And I am going to actually move this to a new page, a dedicated page for a task manager. So first thing I'll have to do is I have to create a new page. And you do that by, again, even a page is a block. So you hit the / key and type page, and it'll show you that there's an option to create a new page. So I click on page, and I'm going to name this task manager. And I'm also going to give it an icon just to represent that this is a task manager. So you can choose a checkbox or something similar. Again, a personal preference. And then notice now we are one level deeper. So we started at the home page and now we are at the task manager. So I'm going to go back to home and I'm going to hover next to this task manager and you will see the 6 dots menu. And what you can do is you can pick this database and move it within the task manager page. And now the task manager has its own home. So when I click on this page, we will see our task manager over here. And of course, you can do a bunch of different things on this page. You can add more links. You can add extra data if you want. And what you can also do is you can make this page full width in case your task manager has more than 4 properties and it is getting hard to keep a track of everything in a single view. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. But at this point, your task manager is ready. And all you have to do now is come in here every morning or whenever you track your task and add more tasks to it. And then once your task is done, you hit check and that will disappear into the done tasks view. And then of course, you can modify it according to your own preferences now that you know how to build a task manager in Notion using the database block. So I hope you liked the video and it gave you an idea of how to use database block within Notion to build your own tools. So we're going to stop here for this one and I'll see you next time.